So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for July 21st, 2023. We will follow our standard agenda of going through what we've tagged for milestone 11. Before we do that, does anybody have any news that they'd like to share? Okay, if not, I'm going to pull up the issues and then I'll share issues. Okay, so let me still left. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. Okay, so drive towards full coverage. I don't know if I don't have any updates on that. Does anybody else have any updates or know that things are going on that front? Similarly, on the adding the C language bindings, Nicola, I know is busy last a while, but is working on that. So I don't have any progress to report, but I assume it's going on. I haven't looked at enabling the testing for debug. So I'm going to quickly go through the other ones. We talked about what's new. Improving the score on OpenSSF. I think we actually, with Kevin's help, we got a good amount of work moved, so we can probably close that, but I just want to hear back from Kevin. In terms of considering to change the license of the examples. I have a feeling that would be a good idea. My only thing is changing license is complicated, I think. I'm not sure.
I think what might happen that whenever you're creating new projects, like you say, npm init for the new package, by default they give you IISC license. I don't know what this license is about, but I think the fact that we're using this IISC license in some cases mostly just because people use defaults instead of explicitly saying.
And I think it's a fairly similar license to. But yeah, I know you're right. It's the default there and the one you just get with npm if you don't do anything else. I'm just not sure what it takes to go through. Like we may need to go and get like every past contributors to those packages. Okay. Now we could look at some of them and see who the contributors are. So, okay, so I think that's maybe a next step is to like go through and say, well, like, who are the collaborators on those? Like, if it's one of us who are still active, it's probably pretty easy to get the okay to say, let's do it. If it's other people, it might be a little bit harder. Anything else or comments people have on that one? If not, I will go back.
I'm curious who controls this npm init.
I think right now it's NPM. We have talked with, like there's been some discussion, sometimes included people from NPM in the package maintenance team. And there's this thing called PKGS create, which I think like would allow, I think at some point might allow us to like the project to set those kinds of defaults. But today I believe it's NPM who's basically set that. ISC license. Function, yeah, so it's something like the MIT. Yeah, I don't know how NPM got there. I know some people would definitely prefer it to be MIT.
Sounds like it's more permissive than MIT.
What was that?
It sounds like it's almost like more permissive than MIT. It only has 2 clauses instead of 3, right? It's what they say, right?
Yeah, sometimes less is not more though, right? Like sometimes like some licenses talk about IP and some don't. So like sometimes some people prefer actually the Apache 2 license because I think it's more specific that like you've also given up your rights to IP versus just the copyright. So yeah, not being a lawyer, I don't know, but lots of NPM packages use ISC because it's the default.
Okay.
Okay, so let's then look at the stale issues. So I don't know if you want to mention anything on this one. I know you're still working away on.
Yeah, I did update today morning, just probably maybe an hour ago to this PR. So I put this kind of check for GC access in most functions. And I guess like, I'm not sure about some functions responsible for asynchronous code, but I think it's not so important in this context. But I guess the only important function which we can access, and I updated unit test to test that we can access instance data. So technically, I believe code is ready for review. If people from this team will be able to look at it, would be great.
So maybe, so is it no longer draft? Like maybe you want to.
Oh, I still have draft. Okay, yeah, I probably need to remove it. Because I believe earlier I also updated documentation. So I think it's, yeah, we have this new function, we added a Node API post finalizer. We have documentation for it. So technically it's almost kind of complete. I guess why it's almost because I'm still missing a review from folks. Like maybe then you guys start to look at this thing, like we'll have some ideas or say, oh, don't do it this way and something. So I think like at this point, I kind of did whatever I could on my side.
It's ready for, yeah. So yeah, if you can take it out of draft, and then the ask is for all the Node API team members to review, and we can move that forward.
Okay, let me remove this draft stuff.
Right, it is tagged and everything. So okay, that's good. This one, so Chenzong, you've submitted that one.
Yeah, I've just updated the test according to Gabriel's suggestion. So it might be worth taking another look, or we can end it as it is.
Okay, so basically ready for, like, if Gabriel has made a suggestion, if you could take another look and review, and otherwise it's ready to go.
Yeah,
sounds good. Okay, that's great. This one, I know Gabriel was going to take a look. Release has been made. Gabriel can look and confirm if you can move forward. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to promote Gabriel, so, or allow him to talk. Let me just check in chat. So anyway, I think that's still in progress. And then this one, yeah. So I don't know, Vladimir, anything to comment on that one? Just still behind the list of all the other things you're working on, right?
No progress, but one kind of not anecdote, but a situation I had. As you know, what I was doing, one of my goals was actually promote Node API to be used in React Native, and as a part of this work, I had implemented GSI. GSI is the API used by React Native to access JavaScript engine. So I implemented this GSI on top of Node API, and what happens that Hermes team, Facebook team shared some benchmarks with me, so I can compare direct GSI versus GSI over Node API.
Right.
The performance was horrible, and especially part where I had to go through this JS proxies. Like the way they implemented host objects, it's proxy-like. Their host object API has essentially 3 different methods. One of them, please give me all properties. Another one, set property and get property. So thank you. This is what host object should implement. And kind of very similar to what been requests about this for none. And so I think like going forward, it would be probably nice to have some Node API which goes directly to internals to implement this host objects or external objects without using effectively JavaScript proxies. So I found that performance was not so good in some.
Okay, so you're like, here's a real world case where it could be an issue versus just giving an example versus actually doing something more.
Right. Yeah, I'm facing a lot of lately kind of performance issues related to approach I chose, and I don't know. It's kind of very difficult situations in terms of should we make some functions and code in Node API faster, or should be some alternative APIs? I don't know. It's kind of, I think like we need to have focus on performance. I guess it's what summary of what I try to say.
Right. So yeah, but it's good if you have like a solid use case to drive that based on, right? So if you have an example of like, hey, this is a real world situation and driving, running into this, and here's a proposal of how to fix it. I think that's a good thing for the API overall.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree that if there is a solid use case, we should investigate to get adding a new Node API to have a better performance and to support it.
Okay, so it sounds like on that one, you might even change, like instead of giving an example of how to do it that way, you may actually work on proposing some things instead.
Yeah, some APIs.
Okay. Okay, well, that's definitely interesting. I think that's our list of stale issues, so we can flip over to the actual repos. So here, we already talked about this one, which is ready to go. This one, Shenzong, looks like you opened 13 minutes ago.
Yeah, I just submitted PR at the last minute of the meeting, before the meeting. So the issue is that we talked about it last week, that the node API get buffer info are identical to the API get tabular info. So it proves that we can remove the API get buffer info use case in the node add-on API since they are identical, and the test is passing locally on my local machine. So yeah.
Okay, so this is changing. So
basically,
the
buffer API buffer is subclassing the API uint 8 array. So as the constructor of uint array has already called API get tabular info. So we are just removing the additional parameter of the buffer to set the length and data by itself, and it can inherit the length, batch length, and data from the uint 8 array. Yeah.
Right. What if those were different?
Change.
Like, because we're still passing in the data and length, right?
I think API create external buffer or API create buffer should ensure that the passed in data pointer should be equal to the data pointer returned by API get buffer info. So
Okay, so you think there'd actually, but okay. But like people could pass in a different pointer and they wouldn't get an error, right? They might have gotten an error before, but they'll no longer get an error.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So I'm looking at like, say, this line here, 2674. We're actually passing in a data and length, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, okay, so I was thinking we're not using them here, but we do still use them in this create external buffer.
To be honest, that even though we didn't have this change, if the implementation actually return a different data pointer for the buffer created with an API created external buffer, the problem still exists when people are calling an API get a temporary info by themselves, right? So yeah, I think if the implementation of Node API actually return a different data pointer, then the problem is on the implementation rather than Node add-on API header files.
Right, okay. So basically having passed these into this call here, the result being the value we passed by. Yeah, okay. So right, we don't need to pass them in again. Okay, I think I get it now.
Yeah, and actually, as a matter of fact, people can already access the byte length and data pointer returned by your int array, your int 8 array by the use case such as the line at 2817.
Okay.
And no, it's a new 2817.
Sorry, okay. This lower here, okay, right.
Yeah, people can already access the data saved by uint 8 array with uint 8 array column data.
So do we still use this length in data? Oh, I see you're removing that. So no.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are removing that since it's the two fields are already defined at the uint 8 array already. So that just duplicated the thing.
Right, okay. And this was private here anyway, right? Okay.
Oh yeah, maybe I should remove the private mark too, since we don't have any private methods.
Yeah, might as well. Few less lines, but okay, I think I understand now. And so yeah, so that looks good. So people just need to take a look and add their approvals. Otherwise, in terms of issues, I don't see anything too new. Any of these other issues people want to bring up and we should discuss? If not, okay, I will flip over to Node itself. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah, this is sorry. This is one we just talked about.
Yep. Okay, right. So you'd ask for some use cases.
Yeah, I might need to comment here too to get people to see the PR and then Node add-on API.
Okay, sounds good. That wouldn't change the documentation though for the core.
Yeah. I believe we just discussed last time that we might instead recommending people to use the API get type array.
Yeah.
Buffer info instead of the API get buffer info.
Okay, so right. So if you land the other one, so we basically, you said, oh, I've changed the use in the wrapper to match that guidance. And then maybe once that lands in, you think you might propose that as the guidance here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Should we kind of add a deprecated flag? Like,
we are never removing it, right? So I don't know if a deprecate is a proper mark here.
We have, I think we have like I'd have to go back and look, but I think we can move like the include into into a deprecated file, which is just a signal. Like we're not going to remove it, but it's like it reduces the likelihood that somebody looks in there and finds it and then uses it.
Remember about
makes sense.
Modular registration. There is also, we can, for C++ compiler, we can add a special attribute. So technically, whenever people used in their code, they get warning, deprecation warning. We have this flag. Anna suggested to add this flag for this module registration function. And it is there. If you open napi.h, I guess.
Sure.
See there. Oh, sorry, node API.
Right.
Yeah, if, you scroll down a bit. Yeah, I see we have this conditional deprecated flag.
And I thought now it might have just been in the wrapper that we did this. Yeah, I know I was thinking about in the wrapper. So what I was thinking about, never mind, maybe, yeah, like what Vladimir's got there is the right thing to do.
You're right. In wrapper, for C++ Node API, we have special header file where we're moving duplicated code.
Right. That's what I was thinking of, but yeah, not core.
But in the core, we could use this approach, and maybe we can generalize it a bit because currently we have this condition directly on the function. Maybe we can extract it to a separate marker like Node API deprecated and then apply this to functions we want. Okay, just
okay.
Thought.
Yep. Yeah, we probably even could do something if we really wanted to have like a Node API deprecated that was included by Node API, but maybe it's, I don't know how much effort it's worth doing that. But, okay, so that one, anything more we should chat about? This one. I guess there was one suggestion.
I didn't get a time to work on this.
Okay. So that's there. This one, actually, it landed quickly. So this actually already landed, but so maybe I'll close the issue since it's updated. But if people want to take a look and see if that refactor actually makes sense in the end for what they thought was a good idea. This is what it looks like now in terms of the matrix. So for each new version, Node API version, we have to add a new entry, and possibly for new major versions. But I think like the updates will be less frequent because like once we get to these all later versions, like we don't need to update things. And I also, I don't know, in my mind, I can see I got a typo. I guess we'll go fix that typo. But like here, my idea was we should really be pointing to the latest, like instead of trying to backport this to all the different versions of the docs, the goal was to just say, like, if you really want the latest version of this matrix, go look at the latest version. And, you know, if we backport things, great. But if we don't, people should be able to find the latest version pretty easily anyway.
Yeah, the new format looks simpler than the previous one.
So yeah, I think at this point I'll say, like, if people want to, you can go take a look and we could make other changes, but I'm going to close that issue now. Let's go back. Otherwise, I don't see anything else new. So is there any others that we should chat about? I guess if not, then, you know, thanks for everybody's time and work on the various areas. The one item I might ask about, just the one for the shared, like, building as a shared library. You still got that on your list to sort of comment and ask the poster if it's okay if you take that over?
Yeah, I still didn't do it. I'll ask, but just
Okay.
I was, like I said, was a bit busy with something else.
Yeah, no problem. Just
have a chance to
want to
look
make
at it.
sure there's nothing else in the way. So, okay, great. Thanks. Talk to everybody next time.
All right, see ya.